Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. I hope everyone's been having a good week, and if you're brand new around here, my name is Melissa, and around here we do all types of beauty content. I upload every Monday and Wednesday, and on Mondays we like to do a little routine video. And by that I mean an in-depth review and tutorial of some palette of the week. And the one that I picked out for this week is by Huda Beauty and it's called the Lovefest palette. Now this is another count in her series of Obsessions palettes, and this is actually the first one that I ever owned. I love all the other Obsessions palettes, but I never bought one before. So here's what this color story looks like on the inside, and when I saw this, it just called to me. I love all the contrast in here, and it looked like I could create a pretty fun eye look out of this. So the eye look that we're going to create today for the tutorial is called the Slope. It's a really fun look, and we get to use a lot of the different colors in here, and I think it turns out really cool. So if you're interested in seeing how to create the Slope eye look, then stay tuned. We're going to get into that first. And then the second half of this video is going to be my in-depth review portion, so if you're interested in hearing my personal experience with this palette, my thoughts, all that kind of stuff, then stay tuned to part 2. But with all that being said, let's get right on into the tutorial. Hey guys, welcome to the tutorial. We're going to get started creating this eye look. So as you all know, I like to do my prep steps first, and that's kind of my base for every eye look. And today I've added a few more things to today's prep steps, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is take some Visine. Now I have pretty watery eyes, and this Visine is supposed to help your eyes not water so much. I think it really stops any irritants from infiltrating your eyes, so that's why I like to use this. Now for my next step, I'm going to take an orange pencil liner. And I'll have this particular set linked down below. This one is from Langmani and it's a rainbow gel eyeliner set, and I have loved these so much since I've been using them. So I'm warming the eyeliner up on the back of my hand first, and then I'm going to go ahead and tightline my upper waterline with this. Now as far as eye priming, I'll admit that I've been pretty extra about it lately, so I'm going to go in with 2 eye primers. The first thing I'm going to do is take my Revlon Candid Concealer and outline underneath my eyebrow. The reason why I like to use this one first is because it's very bright and it really highlights the underbrow region. And what I like to do with this is just take a few dots and kind of line under the brow. And then I'm going to take a small flat brush and just blend that downward. And now I'm going in with my second eye primer, and this one's from NARS, and it's their smudge proof eyeshadow base, and I'm using mine in the shade medium dark. Now this one really matches my skin tone, so it looks really good on my eyelid, and I like to blend it up to meet the lighter part under my eyebrow. So I kind of just coat my entire eyelid in this one, and I kind of bring it up just a little bit above the crease. And then I take my brush and I blend this one upward. And for my last step of prep, I'm going to take a loose finishing powder and just set my entire eyelid. So guys, our eye is completely prepped and ready to apply shadow, and now's the fun part. So before anything, I like to say that I'm going to have everything that I use today linked down below, so if I talk really fast, don't worry. So the first brush I'm going to take is kind of a thicker pencil brush, and none of these shades in here have names on them, so I'm just going to call them out by color. So the first shade is a very nice peach color, and you know how I always like to start in the middle of my eye? Well, today I'm going to start in my inner corner. And I want to have the shade kind of out from my inner corner, so I'm going to start probably about right here. And as I apply this, I kind of want to tap. I don't want to swipe. My goal for this first part is I want to take this all the way up till just about the brow area. Now once I reach the brow area, just about right there, I'm going to come just a little bit outward. And now you see my endpoints right about there. And now I'm going to slope it all the way down to my outer corner. Now once I hit this outer corner, I'm going to whip the tail just a little bit pointed upward. Just like that. And once I have that on there pretty good so I can see it, I'm going to go ahead and deepen the shade up. And again, I'm just going to stamp over this to darken the shade. Now, once I'm satisfied with the entire look of this thing, I'm going to take a big fluffy blending brush and I'm going to blend this entire thing out so it doesn't have any harsh edges. Now the fun part is we get to fill this thing in with all different sorts of colors. So for this action, I'm going to take a little detail brush, the one that I always use. And the first shade I'm going to go into is the bright pink. And the way I like to do this is I like to section this off into 4 segments. And when I look at it, I want each segment to kind of be equal. So I'm going to make a little mark where I need to end the pink. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill in this section right here up until where I place that mark. Now for the next color, I'm taking the lightest orange. And again, I'm going to place my little mark. So I'm going to fill in this next section up until this mark. And don't worry about any blending right now because we'll do that after we place these colors. My next color is the darker orange. And don't forget to place your mark. And now I'm going to go ahead and fill this segment in. And my last color is the one that looks kind of plummy. And you don't need to mark this one because it's the end one. And don't forget when you fill this one in to take it from the very outer corner and swing it up so it has that little point at the end. All of our colors are in place. Now we're ready to blend all the colors together and blend the entire shape out. Okay, so my first colors are this pink and the light orange. So I'm going to take the same little detail brush and get some of that pink and the orange onto my brush. And I'm going to go in the very center between both shades and dust both colors in between both shades. Our next colors are the 2 oranges, so I'm going to go ahead and take both of those on my brush and do the same thing with the 2 oranges. And lastly, this is the hardest one to blend because the colors are so bold. We're going to take the dark orange and that plum color, and we're going to blend these 2 together. Now I clean my brush off on my little towel that I have so it's completely clean and free of pigment. And I'm going to take my brush and circle it along the entire edge of this shape. The next thing I'm going to do is try to clean up all this fallout before we place the lid shade. Now for the metallic shade, I'm going to use my finger because these metallics don't work any other way but with your finger. And I'm going to go into the pink metallic. And I'm going to stamp this onto my mobile lid. Now once you get that metallic on there, then we're ready to move on to our lower lash line. And before we get to the shadow, we gotta do our waterline. So for that, I'm taking my orange eyeliner once again. And I always like to warm these up on the back of my hand so they're very creamy going on. And I'm just gonna place this inside my waterline. Now for the lower lash line, I'm again taking that detail brush and I'm going into that plum shade again. And I'm trying to coat this brush on the very tip of it so I can have some more control over this placement. And for this, I'm gonna line up the very edge of where this little wing shape is, and I'm gonna bring this in to the very center of my lower lash line, and I wanna taper this. Now for this front part, I'm gonna try to use this brush with the blue metallic, and I'm gonna place this very thinly on this front to meet up in the middle with that brown. Okay guys, so this is the entire eye look. I'm gonna go ahead and put on some mascara, do this other eye, and I'll be right back and we'll talk about it. Okay guys, I'm back and here's the finished look. I was unable to get some of the fallout off because I didn't want to ruin my base makeup, but I tried to get most of it off. Not only do I think this look is so much fun to create, but it's super sparkly too, and you know how much I love the glitter and sparkle, so that's totally my thing. Whenever you close your eyes to blink or you show your eyes in the sunlight, they are just going to beam. And I love looks like that, so I totally love this look. I don't really wear too many oranges, so I think it's something a little bit different for me. And yes, I would wear this every day just for a normal look, and I would wear this out. Even though this does kind of serve a colorful twist, I think it's kind of everyday as well. Be sure and let me know what you guys think of this look down in the comment section. But let's scoot right into part 2, which is my in-depth review. Hey guys, welcome to part 2, which is my in-depth review, and today we're going to be talking about this palette by Huda Beauty, and this is called the Lovefest Obsessions palette. And you know, the first thing I always like to talk about is the palette's packaging, and I just love this packaging because it is that nice plastic casing which does a great job of protecting the fragile shadows within. Now on the front, this cover art kind of gives it some character because it does have that lenticular kind of 3D looking packaging. And on the back, of course, you have all of your relevant palette information. Now, opening this up, I do think there's some dexterity concerns here because this is very difficult to open. It does have one of those plastic clasp closing systems. So I think if you suffer with any hand issues, you might struggle trying to grasp this and open it. But when you do get it open, you do have access to a nice mirror inside. And there are 9 eyeshadows in here. These are all eyeshadows. There are no pressed pigments in here, so there's no sensitivity or reactions to any of these shades. Each pan in here weighs 0.78 grams, so that is below the average amount of shadow per pan. And out of these 9 shades in here, 67% of them are matte. So if you like a matte heavy palette, or if you like a balanced palette, this one would be right up your alley. I prefer a matte heavy palette, so I do like this. Not only is it matte heavy, but you're also getting 3 different formulas in here. You're getting 6 mattes, 1 marbled shimmer topper, and 2 flaky metallics. A little bit about this palette is the creative inspiration for this is the festival, of course, and this also contains some new formulas never before seen in a Huda palette before. Let's move right into a routine data check. This palette is not clarified as being any type of clean or conscious formula. This palette, as well as Huda Beauty, is totally cruelty-free. This particular palette is not vegan. And this does also have a 24-month expiration date, and that is located on the back of the palette itself. So real quick, I'm going to throw up a picture of some swatches I took from this palette so you can see how every shade looks swatched out. So let's move right into our cost evaluation. If you went to Sephora and you bought this palette as it stands today, it would cost you $29. Breaking that down a little bit comes to $3.22 per shade. And breaking that down a little bit more comes to $4.13 per gram. So comparing this palette to similar palettes on the market, the price per shade is on the verge of being kind of expensive. And additionally, this palette has a relatively expensive cost per gram compared to palettes that I've reviewed in the past. So as we always do, we're going to get into the most opinionated part of this video, which is my recommendation. So the first 5 things we're going to talk about is patchiness, creasing, staining, fading, and blendability. As far as patchiness, as I was working with these shades, I didn't have any signs of patchiness. As far as creasing, I wore my eye look for 4.5 hours and I didn't have any creasing whatsoever, even on my semi-hooded lids. As for fading, I did experience some slight fading of shades that were located within my crease. Regarding staining, I did not have any. Now let's talk about blendability, okay? I tried this palette on both a set base and an unset base, and by that I mean I set one eye with a loose finishing powder and the other eye I just had a primer on. And the one that was completely set, this palette worked beautifully on. I had no qualms whatsoever. But the side that I just had the primer on, I experienced harsh lines and a little bit difficulty in blending. So if you are working with this palette, I definitely recommend setting your primer with a loose finishing powder because you're going to get the best experience while working with these shadows. As far as kickback and fallout, the mattes in here have a bit of kickback. The non-mattes didn't have any, and I did get quite a bit of fallout on my face, so this is definitely an eyes before base type of palette. As for critiques, this does have the nice light to dark gradient that I always seek, and there's only one option for depth, which does put a limit on its versatility. And although there are kind of similar shades in here, as I was playing with this, I didn't notice any sort of shade redundancy at all. Each shade is unique and serves a different purpose in my opinion. And lastly, I didn't come across any dud shades at all. Each shadow worked perfectly within its base consistency. Now I want to describe some formula highlights, just so you kind of get familiar with this. Like I said, the mattes are very easily blendable on a set base. There's enough matte variation in here to create very pretty gradients. I also did experience some trouble while building the mattes. They go on pretty lightly, and as I was building them up for some more intensity, the top layer just kind of dusted away and I was left with just a little light rendition of what the color in the pan was. As for the non-mattes, these 2 shades right here, which I called the flaky metallics, are literally very flaky. They are like loose flakes packed into a pan. And likewise, all 3 of the non-mattes in here have very tiny PC mica particles, and these particles are mobile, and if they get on your face, they're pretty difficult to remove, so please be mindful of that. And I also attempted all application methods with the non-mattes. This shimmer formula works perfectly any way you want to apply it, but these metallics down here don't work any other way except with your finger. I tried them with a damp brush, a dry brush, and my finger, and they only worked when I used my finger. So if you've wanted to try Huda Obsessions palette, or if you are on the fence about this particular palette, I would definitely say, yeah, I like it, go for it. Of course, I have 3 reasons why I do recommend it. My first reason is that this is a palette that is very easy to work with if you set your base. If you don't set your base, you might run into some issues, so that's why I highly recommend setting it. But if you do that, this is a palette that does work in your favor. And my second reason is that there's a lot of different options in here because it's mostly mattes that you can create some really fun gradients. And since there are some light tones, some mid-tones, and a little bit of depth in here, you can do a lot of fun things with it. And my third reason is that although this is a small, tiny palette, there are a lot of fun textures in here. Usually you don't see more than 2 textures in a tiny palette, so it's very interesting that we have access to 3 of them. And it's especially neat that these are never before seen formulas in a Huda palette. So yeah guys, as I was rating this palette, I rated it at a B. I really enjoyed using this palette and I think it's fun to play with, but it doesn't go without some flaws. So that is all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. And if you did, please give me a giant thumbs up. And if you didn't, just hit that thumbs down button. And until next time, bye.